I'm quite tired, and I think you are tired too. We have the final discussion or the seminar, not long, but for half an hour, maybe a bit more, but not very more. Seminar which we titled "Prospects for the Study, Preservation and Presentation of Ukraine's Jewish Artistic Heritage." Keeping in mind and that so we wanted to combine these three most important aspects, like study, one, second, preservation, and third, presentation. So you are welcome to speak about at least one of these aspects, study or preservation or presentation. So any aspect which is closer to your area of expertise. And for the beginning, I would like to give a word to Yevgeny Kotlyar. Samuel, you would like to say something?
No, wait.
Because you raised a hand. Okay.
Yes, but let Yevgeny start. I just will at some point make a comment.
Okay, and Yevgeny has a small presentation for us. So please, Yevgeny.
Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for their active participation in our conference. Although we're already accustomed to living in a situation of daily alerts and blackouts, it's a great miracle that everything happened. These 2 days, I was mentally transported to the best blissful times when we met and talked enthusiastically about Jewish art over the world. Now let me return to my yesterday's talk, or rather to the question by Professor Piotr Kuroczynski on the popularization of Jewish heritage among young people in Ukraine. And I have a little presentation, some slides. I have found on my computer several examples of the tasks and projects for my students of Kharkiv Academy of Design and Arts related to the study and practical work on Jewish art and heritage in general. These tasks include creating synagogues creating drawings synagogues from old photographs, like this, and more creative works, and copying paintings of synagogues, as well as creating mural project for buildings in various cities of Ukraine on Jewish themes. For example, the theme of the legacy of Shalom Aleichem for the Bila Tserkva, Kyievska Oblast, or the mural painting, just a moment, another presentation. Mural project for the buildings around the Kiev Podil synagogue. These like sketches, some sketches. Before the war, we also organized trips and plenaires in around the former Jewish Pale of Settlement with my students and made art exhibitions. I show one of the catalog of this event and this expedition. And the art, painting, graphics, sculpture, and design projects, etc. This is all this. Oh, stop sharing. And all these tones, creative youth towards the Jewish heritage. Also, I understand that the scale of this is very limited. Listening to our presentations over these 2 days, I'm trying to understand how to integrate the puzzle of our common research into the Ukrainian multicultural narrative so that it becomes part of the future Ukraine. I am sure that Art Judaica is also one of the important components of Ukraine's intercultural dialogue with the Western world and the channel that will continue to unite us. Once again, thank you all for your participation, and we really feel your support. There are still difficult times ahead of us, but our Art Judaica continues to preserve all of us in the space of culture, beauty, and wisdom. We will also soon write a general letter for our participants with information about the publication of your articles on the conference talks in the special issues of Judaica Ukrainica journal. Many thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Yevgeny. Actually, there is some order of names, but you can feel free to take a word. Ruth?
Besides thanking you for such a wonderful, interesting conference that I didn't even mind sitting at the table on Zoom for 2 days. It's really been wonderful. I just want to point out that I run the Jewish Heritage Europe website. And on this website, there's space for publication of your projects. If you're doing something new, or you're working on a restoration or a book or something like that, this week or next week, I'm planning, Yevgeny has already written us a very beautiful essay a couple of years ago, and I'm going to be publishing his collection of shtetl photographs with some of his text in the next few days. So if you have something, there's room for publication, or if you just have basic information about projects, I can also, not 100%, but it's a platform where you can get your information and what you're doing out to perhaps a broader public, because we have quite a good readership. So I just want to put that, and I can put the link in the chat right now.
Thank you, Ruth. Bracha? Unmute yourself, please.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this most interesting gathering. I would like, if it is possible for you, to send us a list of the participants with their email addresses and any site which is relevant, where we can see what they do and be involved in those projects. That is what I can say. I was impressed by the fact that Ukraine is the cradle of the most important documentation that we have today, which enables us to search, at least in my field, to search the art in the synagogues. I got more information about other collections. It was a very good conference, and we will all use the new information that we learned today, yesterday.
Thank you very much. Sam?
Okay, I actually made, while we were having the conference, made a few comments, but I'll read. But I want to first thank all the organizers. This was a terrific conference. And I'm in Italy. I didn't make it to Chernivtsi, but I thought I might actually come. Fortunately, I didn't because I had COVID, but I'm in Italy and I would love to be out seeing Italy, but I've been perfectly happy to sit here and listen to these wonderful presentations for 2 days. I'm glad I'm on the relatively same time zone rather than being in the United States. I learned so much, and I actually hope, I think this conference has inspired me to try to re-engage a bit with issues and actual projects on Ukrainian cultural heritage, Jewish cultural heritage, which I have not been involved in for some time. So some general observations. This will just take a few minutes. These are just bullet points. But so I don't forget. First, I was very impressed by all the art history, and I think generally, as far as Jewish artists in Ukraine, that type of fine arts research is going to be continuing and probably getting better and better all the time, because I think the art market's going to demand it. So regardless of museums or politics or geography, just the art market is always looking for more things, and they're finding painters and paintings, and they need to research, and we're going to learn a lot more going forward. I want to stress, it came up a few times. Felicitas also talked about the study Jewish heritage in as wide a context as possible. And we want to think about Jewish heritage and material culture from a religious, social, political, commercial, domestic standpoint. And so we need to widen our net a bit. It's hard to do, but we should always be conscious of that. And I thought about the Jewish Ukrainian art is really also the art of the Ukrainian Jewish diaspora. And that was made clear as people talked about France and Poland and Germany, but also in the United States. So at a future conference, I look forward to reporting on some of the many Ukrainian-born Jews who made Jewish art and secular art in the Americas. And I'm actually in the process of a big research project about a man named Sam Katz, who was born in Vinnitsa, who built 28 synagogue arcs in New England, which we're rediscovering now. As far as protecting endangered sites, this is always going to remain a challenge, and I don't know what can be done, but certainly monitoring the site conditions regularly and extensive photography has to be a continuous process, and there should be a central repository of information, even if just lists and status of sites. And maybe this already exists, but if not, some coming together of organizations needs to be done so that there's a central repository so people know what's going on. And to some extent, Jewish Heritage Europe can do that for ongoing projects, but generally for the hundreds and thousands of sites, just how to know what the current situation is, a kind of crowdsource, possibly a crowdsource site. And I think this idea of a Jewish museum, someday there ought to be a central physical Jewish museum in Ukraine, either in Kyiv or Lviv, maybe with satellite branches, focusing not so much maybe on central collections, but on education and on temporary exhibitions. And obviously, the Polin Museum is an example. But in the meantime, let 1,000 flowers grow. All exhibitions, online presentations are very valuable. And the wider the audience, the better that they can reach. And a priority needs to be given to documentation, protection, and conservation of the wall paintings that we've seen. These are rare survivors. And for these, I really think international support could be sought or should be sought from both the Jewish and non-Jewish world. And I would like to be in part of that conversation going forward. And then from a political standpoint, we just have to remember that Ukrainian Jewish heritage is Ukrainian Jewish heritage, but it's also Polish, it's Austrian, and it is Russian too, as much as we don't like to say that word today. But we're historians, we're scholars, and we have to recognize that this is a collective culture and everything relates together. And while we're acutely aware of the political situation, we also have to put on our historian hats and be respective of the past as well. So again, thank you very much for everything. And I just learned so much. I look forward to be in touch with those of you who I've not met before, but I hope to work with in the future or engage with in the future.
I appreciate, Sam, your thoughts, and personally, I dream about the day when we open the big museum and Jewish museum in Kiev. That would be a historical day, but
You're young.
but
You're young.
you
I
know,
may not be alive.
but it's the same too. We need to realize that in the case of Poland, you mentioned that I just can't imagine the how what was the job, and the scale, and you know, and the period of time needed for
Yeah,
opening
25 years.
such a museum. Yeah. So
25 years.
yeah. Felicitas.
Yeah, I want to join everybody in thanking you and Yevgeny and everybody who was involved in establishing this really very, very valuable and also in a way moving event. What I want to say two things actually. The one is because Sam again stressed the necessity of preserving cultural heritage in times of war in a way, and I was really very, very very frustrated because when Russia invaded Ukraine, I tried for the Jewish community here in Vienna to set up, lists with everything I know about Ukraine and every collection, every etc., etc. And it went so far that I even was able to talk to people from Blue Shield. And in the end, it turned out that it is not actually the task or that an organization like Blue Shield, UNESCO, etc., can't do anything without the political will in the respective national government. And I really had the feeling that this will was a bit lacking in regards to the Jewish cultural heritage. And this refers also, to a future and a future perspective of a Jewish museum in Ukraine. If there is no political will, it won't happen. And this is what I think this is what you have to pursue. You have to, find a way to open political doors. But this is aside from what I wanted to say content-wise. I think what we have to ask us, or you as Ukrainian scholars, how do we bring together the individual themes we heard during these 2 days and the many, many research projects carried out? And how do we bring the subject of Ukrainian Jewish art into European art history? I think that's a very, very important point. Sam also talked about it. There we have now been 2 days together on which an incredible number actually of very different, very individual subjects and approaches were discussed. Individual questions were presented. And that is one very strong point from my side. What is the conclusion in a more theoretical summary? What does our research ultimately tell us about history and the history of Jewish art, art appreciation, art presentation, and art history? And what does it say about Jewish history in Ukraine and Jewish history in and for Europe?
Thank you much for your thoughts, Felicitas, and for your participation in this conference. You know, while you were speaking, we just had the a power generation in action. So yeah, the war is ongoing, unfortunately. Sergey Kravtsov. Sergey, please.
Hey, thank you very much for this marvelous conference, the enormous quantity and quality of insights and information that we have got here from diverse directions and diverse fields. It was a real pleasure, holiday of a feast of knowledge, I would say. And unfortunately, I know how difficult it is to protect the heritage, built heritage, par excellence, now in Ukraine. I've been 3 months ago to Ukraine. I've been there with the ICOMOS and UNESCO mission on the northern borders of Ukraine, in Chernihiv, trying to help the local community to use existing grants to recover, to rehabilitate the city of ancient Ukrainian history, shared history, after the Russian attacks. And it is so difficult. It is such a political and economical and legal and organizational and so on machine that we hardly imagine, even with backing of money and UNESCO and ICOMOS, how it is difficult to move it forward, to start even. But there are things that could be done in the situation of the war. I mean, first of all, digital humanities and making the sources available online. We have heard this lecture about archives of Kotlyar, and I believe there are many other materials in this archive and other archives in Ukraine that will give us an enormous momentum in our studies of each of us. You know, after the Dalo archives of construction documentation went online, even until letter G, it gave an enormous boost in studies, not only in Ukraine, but everywhere. So I think that we could move in this direction, not that difficult, with much less difficulties than in protection of built heritage, artistic heritage in sites, because we always may find means, money, and computers and servers and places on the disks to share. I think that a goodwill and good planning may help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergey. Miriam?
I just just brought a few lines. Yes, I just wanted to thank you all for all the effort, and I know what does it take to organize a conference in normal times, and it's difficult to organize it in a war time and the difficulties that you're going through. And I agree with Sergey. I think we're coming to the point where we're not sure, especially from the Israeli perspective, where we are going and what will be. And the idea to digitalize as much as possible and make it available online is, I think, where we should go and think about in that direction. This conference is just proof of it, that we were able to reconnect and see each other and learn from each other and enjoy the days, exchange knowledge. And it was for most of people online. So whether it's promising or not, or good or not, but I think this is direction where we're going at the moment, at least. And yes, thank you. That's all what I can say. It was really great seeing people I know and meeting people that I don't know, and learn from all of you, and hear great presentations and exchange the knowledge. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Stephan.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here, because I'm really a guest here. I'm an art historian in a general sense, and not in this specific field, but I would add something to Sergey Kravtsov, because I'm really interested in doing this also in my fields, to digitize things. And the next step is to connect the data and the things. We have talked so many times of networks here in our presentation, but we haven't seen any working network on a map or whatever. So another step would be to really follow those connections, and then probably we also get different answers what identity may be, or multiple identities, because we see that it's a kind of certain connections and so on. So this is one experience I draw from other projects in different fields that we had to work, and connections also mean authority data. Well, I have no idea about here the level of fixed and settled authority data about names and artworks and so on. But there's really a broad overall movement to give the digital identities identifier to artworks or material culture. This is some thoughts from outside a little bit.
Danke sehr, Stephan. Thank you. Who else? Bracha. Unmute yourself, please.
Well, I would like to tell you something because Sergey reminded me something which happened maybe 20 years ago, when Sergey told me that there is a collection of photographs, and he meant the Taranushenko collection, and which I didn't know about. And then he suggested some mutual project together with Yevgeny, and we thought to publish that the collection of the synagogues, and somehow we started to work, and but we didn't publish. I don't remember what was the reason, but finally we didn't continue with this project. But to show how the publication of this material was important for my research. Actually, I couldn't do what I did, and I talked about it today, without those photographs and those and that information. So first of all, I suggest Sergey and Yevgeny to return to that idea and to do something with that material, because I think with not many efforts we can publish that collection, and this will give a base for additional research for other people. Well, anyhow, Sergey, it is a good idea what you suggested, and although I thought I will not continue with my work, I retired 10 years ago and I have to rest, but I'm ready to cooperate, and I hope you agree. you will agree.
Thank you. I agree. I will be retired very soon, but nevertheless.
Thank you very much, Bracha. Thank you.
It's a good idea, and we will continue this.
So,
Yevgeny, I must take this opportunity and to thank Yevgeny, because his help was essential. It was very important. It was not easy. And we will talk about it between us.
Serhiy,
Thank
Hirik?
you.
When talking about
We can't hear you again.
when talking about protecting cultural heritage, as for me, it's important to talk about one group of so-called monuments that are neglected, frequently neglected completely. I mean private archives, family archives. Numerous family archives are recycled into paper mass, and many of them include important valuable materials. For example, 20 years ago in Ashkelon died Avram Miletsky, Ukrainian architect of Jewish origin, and nobody knows what happened with his professional archive, and he was author of iconic modernist buildings in Kiev, and it's only one example. Numerous such examples of Ukrainian cultural heritage in Ukraine and in many countries, and especially in Israel. Many such archives are endangered, and it's important to follow the situation and to contact or state institutions or NGOs need to contact with families of those who have important private archives.
Thank you, Serhiy. Mute yourself, please. I would like to add a few words too, colleagues, if you allow me. You spoke mostly about the study, but also about presentation of the heritage. Let me speak and say just briefly about preservation of the heritage, because we understand. So besides the Ukrainian Association for Jewish Studies, you know, I am like you. I have the main affiliation of mine is Vernadsky National Library of Ukraine, Institute of Manuscript, Judaica Department. And you certainly know that our library, the National Library of Ukraine, has the collection, one of the biggest collections of Jewish books and manuscripts in the world, along with the National Library of Israel and an Evo Institute in New York City. Many of you know about these collections. Let's mention just a few, like what is the location of the main Ansky collection, Simeon Ansky collection? Kiev, Ukraine, National Library of Ukraine. Okay, so one of the biggest, or maybe the biggest collection of Pinkasim, National Library of Ukraine, and so on and so forth. So, you know, for some colleagues support Ukrainian scholars in this terrible time during this barbaric war against Ukraine, and want us to be fruitful and to share our research. But you know, so we are trying. So we are working on research. We're trying to continue our research, but also we try to. So we send the word that our principal mission of today is to preserve the Jewish heritage here in Ukraine, including the heritage and the collections in the National Library of Ukraine, and literally to save these collections from any possible damages. And sorry, but let's be honest, from possible direct missile attacks during this war. So, but anyway, so we are at the same time we're trying to study this heritage in Ukraine, but again, the main purpose and the main goal is to preserve and to save this heritage, and even before the war, honestly, the goal was almost the same. There were other reasons, not because of the war, but some realities, some Ukrainian realities, and we just mentioned the case of Bruno Schulz frescoes, yeah, and other cases were mentioned too. So for many Ukrainian scholars in this field, as well as for activists, many activists from the Jewish community, the main purpose in the previous decades was, first of all, to preserve the heritage and to study it in some bright future. And there is, I want to mention one person who is worthy to be mentioned now. I think that some of you certainly knew this person, Dr. Irina Serhieva, Zichrona Livracha, who headed our Judaica department for almost 3 decades, and she unfortunately she passed away in 2019. Samuel, would you like to add something?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say something about a different project just in response to Stephan's comment, but just to respond to what you said, which is very moving. I'm thinking the situation's not exactly the same, but after 1990, many countries faced terrible situations in preserving or even inventorying and preserving generally their non-mainstream heritage, all the ethnic and religious heritage of those places. And a lot of those countries, Poland, the Czech Republic, even Bulgaria, Romania, they've made great strides, and there's always projects to do, always things to do, but the urgency isn't quite what it was 30, 20, even 10 years ago. Ukraine was moving forward, but still was behind maybe 10 years even what was going on in some of those countries because of political developments. And then, of course, the war has created a whole new set of problems. And it does seem like international organizations, institutions should be focusing attention. They are. I mean, some of them are doing a lot of work with broad cultural heritage issues, but maybe not so much with Jewish heritage. So perhaps if you and your team from the Jewish Studies program, but also from different conservation groups, put together just even a short list of 10 the major needs, major concerns as a kind of shopping list. Those of us who are here and through our networks, we might be able to begin to find some very specialized partners for some very specialized tasks. We're not going to be able to conserve everything in the National Library, but there are big foundations, the Graham Foundation, which does architectural archives, Mellon Foundation in the United States, that could be intrigued. And quite frankly, for them, Ukraine would be attractive now because of the political situation. So in some ways, it could be an opportunity. So maybe after this meeting, over the next several weeks, there could be, some follow-up with some specific, talking about specific action plans to assist. I'm not affiliated with a big organization anymore, like the World Monuments Fund or the U.S. government, but I know they're out there. So, there may be some partnerships. I just feel we all want to help. I don't know how, it's hard to do it though, but we all want to help.
Thank you much, Sam. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you in advance.
Vitaly, could I just mention something?
Yeah, sure. But
I met with Irena of dear memory in 2019, shortly before she passed away, and I've been following the Pinkasim project, the Pinkasim collection at the Vernetsky library for many years. And I was in touch with Benjamin Lukin, who has a very concise catalog of the listing. And I was planning to work with Chaviva Pedaya on a joint project where I would analyze the art aspect, and she would analyze the socioeconomic content of these Pinkasim. And so when I was there, I can happily send you everything I photographed. Photographed quite a bit, obviously not the whole collection, what Irena shared with me. And in my opinion, with the work I've done in St. Petersburg and Kiev, that the Hebrew University would step up from the manuscript department to scan the whole collection. Haven't they done that yet? That's one of the kinds of assistance that they offer. And I think that's would be a very good first step. And I'll be happy to send you all my materials, whatever I have. So.
Thank you so much, Batsheva, for such a suggestion and kind suggestion. I think it would be valuable to cooperate with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Personally, I love this year school, and as I know, so the National Library of Ukraine is currently in some negotiations with the National Library of Israel, with Sifriya Leumit.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. Let's hope that goes forward. Basically, when I was there, they didn't have a scanning operation, just a basic machine there. So I know they've done that successfully in Italy, in St. Petersburg. The National Library has done that very well. So maybe that would be the best.
In the National Library of Ukraine, we are working on scanning or digitizing these materials, but unfortunately, the process is not so fast as we would like to have. But at the same time, we need to realize the scale and the number of the manuscripts and books. Yeah. The number is dozens of thousands. Okay, so any more comments or suggestions or thoughts or wishes? Ruth?
Yeah, I'll just say,
Very
yeah, I'll just say, I mean,
very final, please.
very final. No, again, I want to, you know, my focus is on built heritage, but I'll go back to what Sam was saying. And networks outside of Ukraine and outside of Europe or outside of Eastern Europe are very important. And publicizing what you're doing, not only talk about the destruction of monuments, but to talk about everything else that's going on, because from outside there can be this feeling that there's only destruction, and only destruction and only destruction. But what we've seen today, and from talking with you in the comments, that there's a lot going on that's actually positive, that's going on despite the destruction. And I think this sort of message is important to get out, and then to connect with networks perhaps around. For built heritage, there's a network called the Future for Religious Heritage, which lobbies the EU and has all sorts of other networks around. But it would be useful to be in touch with networks like that that take you out of Ukraine and out of the geographic center. And also, as I said before, publicizing what you did. One of the great successes, and I'll just say it and it'll be final, because that we had on this Jewish Heritage Europe is Sergey wrote an article for us about the synagogue in Ostrov, about it was falling apart. Was it too late to do anything with it? But the late lamented Grisha Arshinov saw the article apparently, and it inspired him to do something. And so when you publicize, when you get the word out, what is being done or what the needs are, this can inspire people to get involved. And it's I'm in communications, and I think a lot of times scholars don't communicate enough with non-scholars or with outside of the narrow world in which they may be. Their focus is on the wall paintings. Their focus is on architecture. Their focus on this, but in some way to go beyond these borders and communicate what's going on. And I think that could also be a way of getting support of one sort or another. And that's all.
Thank you, Ruth. You mentioned just mentioned Grigory Arshinov. One more name, which is worthy of being mentioned in the context of the preservation of Jewish heritage of Ukraine.
I mean,
thank you.
I'm tearing up thinking about him. So it's
yeah. Nadia Ufimtseva for the very final, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Vitaly. Mute. Huh?
Yeah.
Because actually, mute yourself, Vitaly.
Yeah.
Because the sound. So thank you very much for all your patience and for being with us for these 2 days. And actually, I would like to address those words that you said. Most of you were saying in the beginning of your presentation that it's pity that you can't be here in Chernivtsi in person. But to be honest, that being in Ukraine nowadays, it's an experience that we cannot wish you to have. So it's great that we have these all technical possibilities to have this conference in such hybrid format. And there will be times when it will be safe to come and visit Ukraine and participate in conference without being worried about your physical safety. So that's the very first point. And we discussed a lot about and raised a lot of issues during these 2 days about the ethical issues, about the colonization questions, and awareness of language, and so on and so on. But I would like also talk about say a few words about how yeah, we have different this very difficult situation here in Ukraine, and we like Jewish studies scholars and specialists and experts in Ukraine very limited in number actually, and we engage not only in our projects, but we also engage in volunteering, in trying to stay sane and keep our mental health, and also to worry about our colleagues and mourn some of them, or mourn our losses. And all the political issues and all this bureaucratic machine that Sergey mentioned and many others also mentioned, will trust us. We can tell you, and we know much more from this Ukrainian side of this issue. But I think it also, what we need, it's also a mutual pressure from your side to your politicians, not only for the international support for Ukraine, not only in cultural, I don't know, educational programs, cooperation, etc., but also in political pressure. So it won't be negotiated how many, how much, and how limited the donation of ammunition should be, but it would be without discussion, the question without discussion, that Ukraine should receive a lot of ammunition, a lot of weapons, and so on. So it goes beyond these humanities, arts, and studies, beyond these cultural studies, and that's our reality we're living in. So thank you again for your being with us. It was really nice to have these 2 days in Chernivtsi and in Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia, and thank you so much for being with us for these 2 days, for your active participants in all the discussion. Thank you so much, and let's stay in touch. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.